Here's some advanced information about getting inside the 8-button machine, cleaning it deeply, and making sure those buttons operate smoothly.
I'd like to see what came out of the apparently clean Brother Profile 552. Jack washed and washed and washed things out of the bed and the button mechanism, and then he realized we can't leave all that crud in the case, and so he took it apart. And this is not because the machine was mistreated. It looked good. This is just the reality of what happens in 60 years.
Yes. And now what we want to show you is, and we've got the lever on backwards, and we've already done a video, and we'll do some more about the mechanism that actually operates these needles. Now what would happen is if it were right side up and you'd selected a couple of buttons, you would do this, and this is what would push the needles out that you had selected.
So when you ratchet, it's making this whole bar move.
Right, and when we flip over, what you'll see is that this is the mechanism that has the little slides in it. The bars that we showed you going back and forth as I pressed buttons and they jumped around, and we have our settings that let them rise up and down, and this is what actually pushes the needles. And they'll go forward and they'll push the needles into the position that we've asked them to according to the buttons. And I don't know if the camera can get in there. I'll try to tilt it up a little bit. But there's the little rods.
Oh, we can see, yes.
That do the exact same thing as the card reader little black rods. And therefore all of this has...
Future brothers, from this standpoint, will still employ this same system with adaptations.
And the thing is that the potential for sprawling is tremendous. So this is not something, a do-it-yourself situation, unless you're one of those brave souls that figures, I'll get it apart, I'll get it back together. But you can see how complex the mechanism is.
And there are a handful in the world of people who can just go into this, patiently figure it out, and go out. However, we hear from people all the time who thought they were those and are not.
Right, yeah, it'll fool you. And the thing is, if you go very carefully, and we all know this, you'll see what's going on before it all hits the floor. But...
Yeah, but I even heard you holler, oops!
Well, yeah, I did.
I'm looking at something that impresses me greatly, though. Look at the quality of the steel in this. It did have hardened yellow grease on it, which Jack has removed. But is this not gorgeous?
It is, and I see a sponge bar.
Seriously?
Yes, right underneath the needle. Let's see.
Wait, I remember I put a sponge bar in. Did you not take it out?
No.
A different one?
This is underneath the needle mechanism. Look, right here. And you see, I will curl it up for you. There's a sponge
There
pad.
is an additional one. Now, I've heard that those are for dampening noise, and we'll try to replace it, but it may be possible to just remove it for cleanliness and not replace it if we have trouble finding the right thing.
What I'm thinking is that's probably what's impeding the button movement, because I see crud underneath it. Look at there.
We need to get it out. I see it. You all see that kind of yellow dinginess? Isn't that what we're looking at?
Yes. And what it is...
And I see black fuzz in it now.
Yeah, let me get a handful of it right here with the... And this
okay. We got to get that out, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
All right. On to that.
Okay.
We want to show you a little bit about how these buttons work.
Right. This is the rod that actually moves the slides or the selector plates. And watch. This little piece, that's the one we showed you was curved inside. And it moves over to lock the button in place. And you can see, I'm going to lift this up a little bit. Let's put something under here. And you can see the path that pushing the button down sends this rod to one side. This is just like in the punch card when it reads the card and those little U-shaped pieces push the little black rod
and
back
most
and
people
forth.
Never see that because we've told them not to go that far.
Yeah. But you can see now that we're getting the proper action. Here's the unloaded position here. Here's the loaded position, and you see this is what wasn't happening.
Move slower. It's blurring every time it has to change focus.
Okay. Each one of these little rods from there, that position, to this position, that's the curved rods. And if they don't slide over like that, then it doesn't lock the button in place.
And what I got from this, watching how it works, is the modern way of pushing a button is kapow, real fast and hard.
Right.
And what I'm seeing is this is a gentler movement, a slower, well, I can't do it with one hand and
Right.
film with the other, I guess.
Okay.
But
Well, let's release it and see.
we'll let Jack do it.
And here's the thing is we talked about the fact that the bed would be in this kind of a position.
He's angling it the way the clamps
The
will
way
hold
the
it.
clamps would hold it, and that would actually make these button mechanisms work better.
So when we get it back together, we can test that theory. That one didn't want to go that time, but I also see they're bumping the rag on the table now.
They are. But you see, that's proper.
And of
But
course,
you're right.
they should be in their case.
Right.
But you can see if, yeah, he did it too quick and it didn't do anything. Also, the table got it.
Yeah, but it didn't give that time to, by gravity, see, there's more crud that came out of there. But see, gravity is what lets that rod fall into place. There you go. That one was a good, proper movement. But you see, if you don't hesitate when you push it down, see, if I do that,
Any of them could pop back
Right.
up, even though they're
and
working
that
fine.
stops this from actually doing what it's supposed to do. So
Now, right now, there's not enough space for them to work just right, but inside the case, of course, that was carefully designed
Right.
to give them proper space.
And I also need to take this retainer off. And of course, this is the sproing factor. If it were sitting at this angle and I pulled this retainer off, all these U-shaped pins would slide out of place. But I need to get this off because you can see right over in here where we still got some crud
Oops,
to
let me
finish
see.
washing out.
You didn't show us the crud.
You look right through here.
I can't.
Oh, well. Okay.
Oh, we'll just take your word for
Take
it.
my word for it. There's still some crud in there. So I'm going to take this retainer off with it standing up.
And tell us,
and
how
wash
did
it
you
out.
get the old sponge bar or whatever it was, the sound dampener out?
With the hemostats. What we did was we ratcheted the movement. Here, I'll stand it up and show you. You put my needles out of harm's way.
Yes, definitely.
What we did was we ratcheted the bar like that with the needles moved out of position so that we could get in there and get all the crud washed out and get all of the...
And he had to scrub areas with a dental
yeah,
pick. I mean,
right. I mean, well, this is exactly what we tell people. Age changes the chemical nature of most things.
and whatever
and they
that
draw.
started out to be,
Yeah.
it's not that now.
It's not that now. But mostly what it'll do is it dries things out. That's one of the reasons that we promote the silicon products, is because over time the silicon may fall out, but it's not going to harden at all.
Anyway, with that dampener in there coming apart, those buttons would never work right.
Right.
And yet, getting to it to get it cleaned is quite an advanced process.
It is not necessarily a do-it-yourself unless yourself is really confident. All right, now you see this is the retainer that we were talking about, and there's a similar flat plate on the card reader. But these are the U-shaped
Card reader being other models.
Yes. These are the U-shaped clips that are associated with the movement, and they will slide right out of there. If you'll notice, I've got this up in the back so that gravity is assisting me to hold these in. And it's off so that I can clean the last of the crud right out of here. This is the movement that the button, oops, you see what happens?
See how quick that happens?
Yeah, they'll just pop right out.
And they'll go way farther out than that. That's easily
right.
fixed with a fingertip, but
Right, and what it is there's a plate here with a hole in it, and the other end of this is through that plate. So when it comes out far enough, it slides out of that plate.
and it's not a piece of cake to get it back
No.
through both things.
And the plate is really no thicker than this, which the camera can turn around this way and show you the thickness of that. It's no thicker than this piece, and there's just one little hole in it for that to go in. It counts on this hole and the other hole being in perfect alignment and the rod going between both holes. So when it slips out and it's only about that far that it has to move.
We can't see you. You have to move to the field of vision. There we go.
It's only about that far that it has to move before it's out of its other hole.
That's why most people should not actually go here. But if the machine won't work and you live 1,000 miles from nowhere and you decide it's worth the effort, there's where your carefulness needs to go.
That's right. And that's when you take pictures and videos of what you see now, so that when you go to put it back together and something's out of position. Now, what I had to do, and I will do this simply because it's safe to do so, but if we lift it up so that these pins are being held in place and we ratchet this out of the way, see how this part is sliding on those pins?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is what keeps... Your selector plates are in this mechanism. So when these rods move, they're moving the selector plate.
Inside there, and
Right.
getting back lined up is, for
Yes.
that reason,
Yes.
tricky beyond words.
Let me get something where I can indicate.
If I understand
See, there's
correctly,
a slot right there.
Jack is hoping that you learn from this video because he's never planning to show you again.
That's it. This is all you get until I have to put it back together for you. But you see why it's so tricky to get all this lined up.
Careful!
Each one of those rods goes through 8 selector plates inside of here. And each one of these moves one of the selector plates. So once you've got the rod out, then you've got to line everything back up in there to get it to go in. And since it's movable, it's fun to try to run it down.
Bottom line, don't go into it just for fun, because it's not.
Right. And I went into it. It wasn't just for fun. It's because I had to get this machine clean.
If you must go into it, do it with infinite caution.
Exactly.